Mead it's been around for a long time, but it's new, it's unique, and it's new to this area. You've got to go to Temple or Austin, Texas for your closest meadery. This has been 10 years in the making. We liked to garden at first. We got a beehive. We wanted to help our pollination on the garden. The next year we had 2 beehives, and it just sort of exploded. We fell in love. We doubled up every year. Colony collapse was pretty big at that time. Pollinating services by the honeybees, either commercially or just naturally, if we didn't have that, we'd lose 1/3 of our crops. And so the number one crop, almonds, would be gone. Apples, cherries, coffee, those crops are gone. So a lot of these crops are specifically 100% have to be pollinated by these honeybees or other bumblebees would be gone. The honey's always been our focus. We started to sell that. About 5 years ago, we started making skincare product with those beeswax products. And then been in this building for 1 year. My wife quit her job 2 years ago teaching, and I quit pharmacy past May to be down here. So now, since May, we've opened up the winery. It's another avenue for the honey. Honey is sweet, and so a lot of these meads are on the sweeter side. A lot of our educations here, people really try to get locked into, well, this isn't beer. And it's not beer, this isn't wine, it's mead. You know, even though we're a winery, you can only brew beer, wine, or spirits, and we're into that winery category. Probably should be by itself. So there's some education about what mead is, and so you really have to open up your mind and say, this is from honey. And so I think originally for me, this is different, it's unique. I try to compare it to something else when you really shouldn't. The nice thing about mead, you know, all fermentation, you have to start with a sugar source. So grains or grapes, which you have to really sort of break down. Yeah. With beer, you don't need too many nutrients, you don't have to add a lot of that. But with honey, it is void of some yeast nutrients, so that's something else. There's some education on my end. You know, what do these yeast need? What kind of nitrogen sources that honey is a lot of times void in. So there's some research as far as how to get this fermentation to go through and to get where I want it.
When you were in pharmacy school, did you ever think that this was the direction you'd go?
No, you know, even when we started this last year, I thought maybe in 4 to 6 years I can back off to some degree and be down here. And after 6 months of, you know, doing full-time pharmacy and down here is just a lot. The fermentation makes sense in my mind. It's a pretty easy process. You get a sugar source, you add yeast, you get carbon dioxide and ethanol. So that made sense. There is some kind of that child, you know, science lab experiment, which is fun. That's an experiment with the different flavors of the mead that we want. So orange blossom, clover, I've done the cranberry, wildflower, they all impart different flavors, which is pretty cool. Now the different yeast as well can do that. So I'm still trying to learn what really I want to do. And I think ultimately get a base mead, this is where I want to go with it, and then do some other things. Add fruits, I've already sort of done that. Add raspberries, add blackberries, you know, then give it a more fruity taste compared to just a traditional mead, which is just honey and water.
How do you introduce mead to your customers?
Yeah, so usually the first thing, you know, have you had mead? And most times, no. And then try to at least get them educated about fermentation, sugar sources, how all fermentation, how all alcohol is produced, and then get them into the mead. Most of them with wine, they absolutely know what wine is, and then try to just get them, baby step them to what we're doing with the mead.
Teach us.
So normally if someone comes in, you know, again, have you had mead before? And most of them, no. And so I like to show them, just start with the traditional mead, which again is just honey and water, and they can run anywhere from, say, 6 to 19% alcohol. So a lot of the ones I'm doing around 12.5%. So about like a wine. I've got one on tap now, which is just a base traditional mead called the Queen's Revenge. We like to have playful names. So the Stinger, the Forager, Citrus Swarm, that kind of stuff. So, you know, I'm usually gonna pour for sure this Queen's Revenge, and I put my stuff on in kegs and put it on CO2. Number one, I don't have the storage for bottles, you know, but really I like to give it a little bubbly, you know, so it is a little more beerish. So if they're gonna get into it, it's not gonna be a real still mead. So that I think helps. I've got one that's a raspberry now, so I used the base mead and really boiled a lot of raspberries, made a tea out of it, and got it to where I wanted it. It's got a beautiful color. I'm gonna start a cranberry, since it's that time of year coming up. We've got some other stuff that I like to do. One is coming out of Denmark, and it's the extreme of mead. It's 19%, it's huge, and it's called Viking's blood. So this is gonna be, you know, mead is, they would say, the drink of the gods. So this is the Vikings, this is a long time ago. So mead. So usually I get 3 or 4. I'll drop down to, again, these are running 12%, 19%. We can come down to something fun like a lemon out of Austin, Texas, Meridian Hive. So just the color variation, you know, flavor-wise. We even have slushies. We want to educate people about the honeybees, how important they are to our environment, to our society. So we do classes. We do beginning bee classes, and then just because maybe you don't want a hive, we still do tours and education. So you can come out, talk bees, get in a beehive, get suited up, and get in a hive.